legal battle between George Gervin and Caleb Williams. Gervin, of course, is the Iceman, but the young Bears quarterback has decided he is the Iceman, and he has attempted to legally patent the nickname under trademark law. This has frosted the Iceman, who says, quote, "I've been the Iceman for 40-something years. I never thought anybody would try to trademark it. That name is taken. And I'm saying, young fella, we've already got one Iceman," unquote. Wilbon, your head must be exploding. You love Gervin and you love Caleb Williams.
I do.
Is Gervin correct to be upset that Williams is trying to trademark Iceman?
My head's not exploding at all, because Iceman is Iceman. It's George Gervin. He's ice, okay? Yeah. That's it. I like it when Caleb Williams does this. I've been sitting in the Soldier Field in person when he's doing it, because I'm in the stands doing this, and I feel like the Iceman. But no, there's this George Gervin. When I am lucky enough to see George Gervin, it gives me goosebumps on the road when I see him in a game in Texas or somewhere, and I say, "Hello, Ice." Not even George, he's Ice, and you know this, he's your peer. You, as much as you love Gervin and Julius and the guys that you covered, they're your peers. Caleb doesn't know. He's not old enough to know Ice. Caleb's dad is, though. I'll ask Carl about this, but the marketing people need to get off their behinds and put them together in some sort of ad as Ice Men. Nobody calls Caleb Ice here in Chicago. Nobody.
Of course not. Yeah, what are we talking about here? Who exactly is Caleb Williams? What exactly has he accomplished? Excuse me, and who exactly is referring to him as Iceman? George Gervin is the Iceman. Now, if you're my age, you're old enough to know one of Chicago's own, Jerry Butler, the singer. You know, he won't love you like I love you. He was the Iceman before Gervin. But in sports, George Gervin is the Iceman, not some lovely kid from Gonzaga High School. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. And yeah, they ought to get together. They ought to get together, and they ought to meet, and Caleb Williams ought to say, "It's your nickname. It's not my nickname." Because it looks like, Mike, it looks like he's trying to steal George Gervin's identity.
Yeah, not to me, because he doesn't know who he is. Tony, it'd be good for both of them to get together, because what that would do in the present is make a whole generation of people aware of George Gervin who now are not. So the marketing people wake up and stop advertising Super Bowls and put these two together. Wake up.
You shouldn't be able to trademark a name that's somebody else's name. It's not like anybody's going around calling themselves the Bambino. Let's take a break. Coming up, number 1 seeds Duke and Michigan have Sweet 16 games tonight. Which team is more vulnerable?
And which number 2 seed do you have more confidence in, Tony? UConn or Iowa State? Toss up next.
There was an Iceman in Top Gun, in the original Top Gun movie. But George Gervin is the Iceman.
Well, George Gervin is Ice.
But he's gone.
He's Ice. That's it. It's on his jersey. And by the way, George...
Pardon the Interruption is brought to you by...
The selfie opportunity to confront a wild animal. Kangaroo can knock you out. Left, right, jab, cross, done.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, notable moments from baseball's opening day. George Gervin's issue with Caleb Williams, and Duke is back on the court tonight. But we begin today with Tiger Woods arrested on suspicion of DUI, property damage, and refusal to submit to a lawful test after a rollover car accident in Jupiter Island, Florida. Woods' car was reportedly one of 2 cars involved with no reported injuries. Police say Woods appeared impaired, passed the breathalyzer, but refused to give a urine sample. 5 years ago, Woods suffered massive trauma to his right leg in a 1-car accident outside of Los Angeles. Wilbon, we have so much more to learn, but what did you think about when you heard this news?
Tony, my first thought was, again? I mean, Tiger Woods, clearly a bright man, a talented man, one of the most important sports figures in the history of the world. He just has these lapses. These aren't mishaps. These are huge either lapses of judgment or capability, because this isn't the first, or as you mentioned, the second incident with a vehicle. He was cited for driving under the influence in 2017 and admitted essentially to having an unexpected reaction to prescribed medication. Then in 2021, the very serious accident while falling asleep that threatened to take his right leg. Then you have this rollover. And so how flawed is this Tiger Woods, who has to be worth north of $500 million? You can't find a driver. You can't, there's nobody in your life that will force you, that will intervene and say, dude, you're going to lose your life. How many chances do you want at this? These are not mishaps, Tone. These are stunning developments.
Yes, you think it's part of a pattern, and I understand that.
Yes.
I mean, the most recent time we had seen Tiger was just the other night. He played at TGL. He seemed happy. He seemed joyful to be on a team. He had not ruled out playing in the Masters. This is a setback. There is no question about that. I'll just go to my notes for a second. I mean, the good thing is he's not hurt. He's also in a jail cell. He had to spend time in a jail cell here, and there's no other way to look at this other than Tiger Woods is a magical figure in golf and in all of sports.
All of sports.
And the sad thing for both of us here, you and I, is we are not surprised. You hear news like this, you are not necessarily surprised. For all of his greatness, he seems star-crossed in many ways. His marriage, his injuries, his pain, his physical pain, and I wonder if there is emotional pain as well. I wonder, we're very glad that he's all right.
Yes.
But, what comes next? What comes next? We move now to last night's Sweet 16 games. The early games were great. Purdue beat Texas on a last-second tip-in. Iowa beat Nebraska in part because of a basket Iowa got when Nebraska had just 4 players on the court. The late games were not nearly as competitive. Arizona scored 109 on Arkansas, beat them by 21. And Illinois throttled Houston. Wilbon, what is your biggest headline from these 4 games?
Tony, like you mentioned, loved the first 2 games, the competitive, close nature of them. I started to call them Wake You Up, but it was far too late to tell you to watch your new fave, the team you have a crush on, Illinois, because they were doing all the things that you have come to love about them in the last month. But, Tone, for me, it's Arizona. And shout out first to Charles Wade Barkley, who says in the pregame, and I thought Charles was nuts at the time, this game won't be close. Arizona's going to just take them apart. And that's what Arizona did, Tony. They're bigger and stronger and faster and in more control. They've got a greater diversity offensively, ways to score and ways to beat you. And the fact that they took out Arkansas in a cuff like that, that's, to me, the most impressive thing of the night.
I said the other day that could be 100-99. I was wrong. I underbid. They scored 109 points. They won that game easily. We will disagree just in terms of shading. I thought the biggest headline was Houston losing like that to Illinois. Illinois played big boy basketball. Illinois held them to 34% shooting. If I have this right, 22 of 64 from the field and 9 of 32 from 3. Houston was in the final game last year. And Houston had a great path to the Final Four right now. When Florida went out, it looked easy for them because they were playing at home. They're in the city of Houston, 2 miles from the campus. So if I'm Kelvin Sampson, I look at that game and I go, what happened here? And is there something I could have done to prevent this? The other 2 games, they don't have remarkable results. I mean, you expect Purdue to win a game like that over Texas, and they get a great basketball play at the end of the game in a great game. You cannot be surprised when Iowa beats Nebraska or the other way.
A little bit better.
When you have rematches,
a little bit better.
When you have rematches of conference teams, you can never be surprised who wins. I was rooting for Nebraska because, Nebraska to me was a Cinderella. But even Cinderellas have to have 5 people on the court at various points during this whole game. But I think those were unremarkable results. But the Houston one was a remarkable result to me. Really
Tony, just to note this, Kelvin Sampson, when Illinois, and I'm sure he will wonder that because he's that kind of coach, but when Illinois shoots it like that, with the size and the depth they have, when they shoot it that way, I mean, I don't know that even Arizona, who I have winning the whole thing, and I think you do too, I mean, that's the one. Maybe Illinois can match up with Arizona when they shoot it that way, and they did last night.
When you talk about shooting it that way, Arizona shot it 64%.
They did.
That's unbelievable.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
And 60 points in the paint, it was. Let's move to the major moments of baseball's full opening day. The headlines include Kyle Tucker driving in a run for the Dodgers. Mike Trout hitting a home run in his return to center field. The Miz striking out 11 of the Brewers' 20 against the miserable, awful White Sox. Tarek Skubal and Garrett Crochet looked strong. Rowan Anthony went 3 for 4 for the Sox. And big days for Tigers rookie Kevin McGonigal and Guardians rookie Chase DeLauder, Tone, what stood out to you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to go to the Nationals beating your Cubs in Wrigley Field, beating them 10-4, good buddy.
Yeah.
They had 10 runs. I don't know how many times they had 10 runs last year. Wasn't many. They had 3 home runs. Again, wasn't many times last year that they had 3 home runs in a game. But I understand that's a marginal game. And I just bring it up because I watched it and the Cubs are involved. And I went to cable channel 1261 to get it, and I didn't know cable went up that high. I'll talk about a young man and an old man. McGonigal is the young man for the Tigers, the first pro game he ever had in the major leagues. He goes 4 for 5. He scores 2 runs. He drives in 2 runs. He gets 2 doubles.
Nice
It's a great debut.
Absolutely.
And he helps Tarek Skubal, who ends up 6 innings, 3 hits, no earned. The old man is Mike Trout, who has been robbed of his greatness by injuries over a long period of time. He goes out there yesterday. He gets on base 4 times. He has a home run. He has a stolen base, and he plays center field. You know how many stolen bases he had all last year? He used to be a great runner, over 40 a year. He had 2 all last year. You know how many times in the last 2 years he's been in a circumstance where he's been on base 4 times in a game? Twice in 2 years. Mike, I know you join me in saying this. It would be great. It would be great if he was great again, because he was going to be an all-timer. Mike Trout was an all-timer. He was.
Tone, no doubt. And by the way, I hope he can be great and get traded by the deadline. Let him go. I mean, you can't be expected if you're the Angels and you haven't done enough at this point to get him to the playoffs more than I think once. I don't trust them, and I don't trust that to be the venue that he becomes Mike Trout again. I, like you, absolutely hope he can become that. Tony, let me tell you, the thing that struck me yesterday wasn't the performances, not yet. I'll get into baseball in June. It's too cold here. It's 37 degrees here, and Major League Baseball's lucky the Cubs and Nationals aren't scheduled till tomorrow.
They're not playing today. That's right.
Not playing today. But, Tone, this. It's not like the shift. It's not like the pitch clock. Those things were immediate successes. You saw the impact they had on improving the product. This is intrusive, Tone. I got to take some time on that one.
I liked it more than you did. I didn't think it was terrible at all, and I thought it went by quickly. So we disagree on that. We'll wait. Let's move to time for toss-up. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, and spends the next 54 hours either watching college basketball or texting Wilbon about how his Cubs are getting pounded by my Nats. What's first?
There's no game tonight. They can't get pounded.
Toss-up, which #1 seed feels more vulnerable tonight, Duke or Michigan?
Duke feels more vulnerable to me, and I root for Duke. They haven't shown greatness so far. And St. John's is formidable and undervalued and underseeded at a number 5. They won the Big East regular season. They won the Big East tournament. They beat UConn 2 out of 3 times this year. And they got a guy on the sidelines in a fancy imported suit who knows what he's doing. You know, that's a scary game, I believe, for Duke. Michigan, let me get to Michigan. Michigan plays Alabama. Alabama's going to throw up a ton of threes, and maybe they'll make them all. But I think, Mike, what happened to Arkansas last night is what's going to happen to Alabama tonight.
Yeah, Alabama, to me, has got the biggest, tree to climb to get to its opponent tonight. I mean, St. John's, I got St. John's beating Duke in my bracket. And largely because you looked at this now, Foster is going to be back in the lineup, apparently.
Caleb Foster, the guard.
For Duke.
The guard. He's going to play.
Duke's turnovers were way up in those first 2 games. You turn the ball over against St. John's, you're going down. But if they can play in an environment, which is going to be, Tony, to me, equally charged in terms of passion. There's going to be a lot of Big East people in that building in Washington, D.C., a lot of Duke fans,
a lot
just
of
because they live in the Mid-Atlantic and they'll go.
That's right.
But a lot of
it. Yeah.
I don't see Alabama's going to have to make 50% of its threes to beat Michigan tonight. And that will not be close in terms of fan support. The United Center will be maize and blue, and then it will look like some Iowa State colors because they can drive as close as the Michigan people are. So Alabama's in for a hurt tonight, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, the Big Ten's played great. The Big Ten is establishing itself as the best conference in the Sweet 16, right? I mean, that's what I would say.
No, absolutely. So
vulnerability, Duke is vulnerable. What's next?
No doubt.
Toss up, which #2 seed do you have more confidence in tonight? UConn or Iowa State?
let me just say that the UConn-Michigan State game is the best game on the board. That's the game I'm going to stay up, and I have to stay up. I'm going to stay up and watch that. And I think UConn is really good. But I have more confidence in Iowa State tonight, and that's because Iowa State is playing Tennessee tonight, right? And I think Tennessee is not as good as Michigan State. So I think it's an easier matchup. And if you look at what's happened to the SEC so far, they've lost a lot of teams. Florida, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Texas, Texas A&M, Kentucky, Missouri. And Iowa State's really good. Iowa State this year has beaten Houston. They've beaten Kansas. They've beaten Purdue. And they've beaten St. John's. It's just, Mike, I'm saying it's harder for me to pick UConn than it is to pick Iowa State.
Yeah, Tony, I agree with that. And Iowa State, we don't know Joshua Jefferson. You know, earlier you hear different reports here in Chicago where the team is and will be playing tonight. Obviously, Iowa State would be better off with him in the lineup. But they defend even if he's not in the lineup. They really defend. And Tennessee, to me, is going to have trouble getting any pace and rhythm in this game against Iowa State, which, again, will feel like it's playing at home. I mean, I know what the United Center is going to look and sound like tonight. It's going to sound like a home game for Michigan, and it's going to sound like a home game for Iowa State. And they're going to have all of that in their advantage. Look, UConn is every bit Michigan State's equal. They just are. I mean, those are two heavyweights, blue bloods, anything you want, however you want to term it. But I got Michigan State in that game. I got Michigan State going to the final. So, you know, I got St. John's and Michigan State winning in your town in Washington, D.C. tonight.
That's it. Wilbon's corner man just threw in a towel. Let's take one last break, but still to come, UConn loses a top assistant, which means Bill Murray might be coming to a Boston gym near you.
And the feisty Hornets snapped the Knicks' 7-game win streak. Told you yesterday, Tom. Told you.
No, you had that one. I remember that you had that one.